Now we'll move on to the role of fats in our review of basic nutrition concepts. Fat is the chief storage form of energy in the body and is present in literally all of our cells. It serves a number of purposes. Two main purposes are to insulate and protect our vital organs. The fats and oils in our food also help us to absorb the fat-soluble vitamins, which are vitamins A, D, E, and K. This is why you should always take your multivitamin mineral supplement with a meal. Main sources of fats are meats, dairy with the exception of non-fat varieties, and oils. Another word used for fats in our diet is lipids. We hear a lot about cholesterol these days. This is a special type of fat, both made by the body and attained from eating animal products. The body uses it to make our cell membranes and hormones. HDL cholesterol stands for high-density lipoprotein. This is considered to be the good cholesterol, and a higher number is a positive outcome. LDL, or low-density lipoprotein, on the other hand, is considered to be the bad cholesterol. Cholesterol levels are measured in a test called a lipid panel. It is generally considered optimal for the total cholesterol level to be between 140 and 199 milligrams per deciliter. HDL cholesterol is considered protective and should be at least 25% of the total cholesterol number, which is over 40 milligrams per deciliter in males and over 50 milligrams per deciliter in females, while LDL cholesterol, which is considered potentially damaging, should be below 130. If HDL is low or LDL is high, then you may be at risk for heart disease. Triglycerides are also measured as part of the lipid panel and should ideally be less than 150 milligrams per deciliter. Fats can be broken down into four categories according to their molecular structure: polyunsaturated fat, monounsaturated fat, saturated fat, and trans fats. Fat molecules are made up of carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen. Here we can see a simple diagram of how the various molecules differ. As you can see, the saturated fat molecule is very straight. Now, we don't need to get too deeply into the chemistry behind this, but in short, this is because all of the carbon bonds forming the backbone of the molecule are completely saturated with hydrogen. Since the molecules are so nice and straight, they pack together well, making saturated fat a solid at room temperature. The unsaturated molecule, as you can see, has a bend in it. This is because it has at least one double bond. If there is only one double bond, the molecule is considered to be monounsaturated. If it has two or more double bonds, it is a polyunsaturated fat molecule. The molecule in this particular diagram has one double bond and so is monounsaturated. Since the molecules in these types of fat are bent, they do not pack together well, keeping them in liquid form at room temperature. As you can see, the trans fat molecule is straight, much like the saturated fat molecule. Sometimes these molecules occur in nature, but they generally occur because the double bond has been artificially removed in a man-made process. These fats behave much like saturated fats, remaining solid at room temperature. In the following slides, we'll discuss more about the different types of fats. As I mentioned, saturated fats are solid at room temperature. They are mainly found in high-fat meats and dairy products, butter, palm, and coconut oils. Excessive consumption of saturated fat increases the risk for heart disease by increasing the LDL, or bad cholesterol levels in your blood. Although there is some controversy over whether or not the vegetable sources have the negative impact the animal sources do. We do know that food companies often hydrogenate plant sources of saturated fat, which definitely makes them very unhealthy. Saturated fats are generally very stable and are not easily susceptible to oxidation or rancidity. Polyunsaturated fats are liquid at room temperature and are more susceptible to rancidity than other fats. They are found in vegetable oils such as corn, sunflower, safflower, soybean, and cottonseed. We hear about omega-3 fatty acids quite a lot these days. These are a special polyunsaturated fat found in fish oils and grass-fed animals. They are considered to be very heart healthy and may also have a positive impact on inflammatory conditions such as arthritis, as well as mental health. Plant sources include flax seeds, pumpkin seeds, hemp seeds, chia, walnuts, green leafy vegetables, and marine algae. As an interesting side note, in a study done over 40 years ago, an Eskimo population in Greenland was found to have very little heart disease, although their diet was very high in fat. This was attributed to the fact that their main food source is fish, which is high in the omega-3 fatty acids. Subsequent stories have supported this finding. Like polyunsaturated fats, monounsaturated fats are also liquid at room temperature. They will, however, become more solid with refrigeration and are quite resistant to rancidity. Sources include olive, canola, and peanut oils, nuts, and avocados. These fats are considered heart healthy because they can lower the LDL cholesterol without lowering the HDL levels. They are a main component of the Mediterranean diet. As mentioned previously, trans fats exist naturally in very small amounts in some meats and dairy-based foods. A process called hydrogenation, however, where hydrogen is added to their chemical bonds, more commonly creates them. This method allows food manufacturers to stabilize liquid-based fats so that they are easier to work with and more palatable. Hydrogenation of unsaturated fats also allows manufacturers to increase the shelf life of commercially baked goods, such as cookies, crackers, French fries, and donuts. Trans fats have been found to be quite damaging to the body and should be consumed as little as possible. The American Heart Association recommends that no more than 1% of your total calories come from trans fats. The good news is that due to consumer awareness and demands, trans fats are now showing up less in grocery store foods. You should still be wary of restaurant fried foods, however, since some still use oils high in trans fats. The total amount of fat consumed should typically be between 25 and 30% of total calories. Of that, less than 10% should come from saturated sources, about 10% from polyunsaturated sources, and approximately 10% from monounsaturated sources. As previously mentioned, as little as possible, or less than 1%, should come from trans fat. This slide contains a link to the Harvard Health Publications Fat Resource Center. Please take the time to visit this site before continuing on. Once you reach the site, scroll to the second chart down. This chart gives you a visual depiction of what types of fat various fats and oils contain. You will see that hard stick margarines and shortenings contain the most trans fat, while the animal products, palm and coconut oil, contain the most saturated fat. Safflower and olive oils, on the other hand, contain the most monounsaturated fat. You might like to spend more time checking out the rest of this page as well.